Welcome back to the channel. Just spent 45 minutes making this video and one of my cameras had failed. To make it worse, it was the one with the microphone plugged in it. So anyway, let's do it again. At least I've had some practice. So welcome back and welcome to this the first proper instructional video, if you like, in my new series of videos about how I teach advanced driving. And before I get into the meat and bones of this, I just wanted to say thank you to a few people. I put a video out a few weeks ago explaining why I've been off YouTube for a while. Been a bit poorly, had a few health issues over the summer. A bit of a miserable time. And I got so many really nice messages, really supportive messages off people. So if you're one of those people who got in touch, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. It gave me a big lift. To be clear, it was nothing life-threatening. It was annoying, a bit depressing. I'm fully recovered now. People go through a lot worse. But at the same time, it was very, very nice, very uplifting to get the messages and the number of messages that I got from people. So if you're one of those people, thanks very much. You gave me a massive lift there. Appreciate it. So in this video, the first instructional video of my How I Teach series, I'm going to look at learning styles. I'm going to look at learning styles. I'm going to look at some of the broader psychology around learning as well. I'm going to look at the 4 stages of competency. I'm going to look at the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I'm going to talk about a little principle that I use that I was introduced to by an instructor about 25, 26 years ago when I was on my police instructor's course, called click-click-clunk, which also describes very nicely the learning journey that people go through. So if you are an instructor, an observer, a tutor, a coach, anybody who teaches advanced driving skills, advanced riding skills, I hope there's something in this for you. You're going to get something out of it. I'll try not to get too technical, but what I'm hoping is that some stage some of this stuff will click, or some of it you might have experienced but never put a name to, and it's quite nice sometimes to recognise, oh actually yes, I've been through that with students, I've been through that with associates, people that I'm coaching. You'll recognise some of this stuff in there. So the first thing I'm going to look at is learning styles and how to identify how to play to people's strengths in terms of their learning styles. And in general terms, there are 4 main learning styles that people adopt or people sort of lean towards. And as with everything in advanced driving, there is an acronym. We like an acronym, don't we? This acronym is VARK. V-A-R-K. Now, on the one hand, yeah, it's an acronym. On the other hand, it doesn't really spell anything out that means anything unless you can tell me what a VARK is. But that's the acronym we're working to, V-A-R-K, VARK. I'll tell you what each of those letters stands for. The V is for visual. The A is for auditory. The R is for reading, or written word, I like to refer to. I know it begins with a W, but you know, written word. And the K stands for kinesthetic, which might not be as obvious as the other learning styles. But let's go through those 4 learning styles. There are other, you know, people break these down. There's been other studies. There are other theories around learning styles. But I sort of buy into these 4 fundamental learning styles. And the important thing to remember is that most people, almost everyone, doesn't just have one learning style. They'll have a combination of 2 with a bit of a third one thrown in. Your job as an instructor, as a coach, is to suss out what their learning style is. Because remember, they don't know what the learning style is. You ask most people, excuse me, what's your learning style? They won't have an idea. They've never looked at it. So you have to work out. And you work that out, a little bit of trial and error, by finding what works with people and what doesn't. And once you've tried something that's successful, you'll start to realise what their learning style is. So let's go through those 4 learning styles. V stands for visual. Now this may be obvious, but somebody with a visual learning style likes to watch things being done, likes to see things, likes to take in you know, visual presentations on a whiteboard. They like to watch videos on YouTube. They like to see schematics, and they like to watch somebody doing the skill so that they can see what's required. That's a visual learning style. Auditory, people with an auditory learning style like to listen. They like to hear instructions. They like a really clear commentary, for example, about what's happening down the road. They might listen to audiobooks or podcasts. But for those with an auditory learning style, they seem to take in and absorb information mostly through listening. Their brain is wired to listen to information and absorb it in that way. We get to the R of VARK. The R of VARK, aardvark. We get to the R of VARK. R stands for reading. My preferred term is written word. So people who have a reading learning style, this is going to sound really obvious, but they absorb information better by reading it, reading the written word, reading books, textbooks. In a presentation situation, a classroom environment, they'll like to see information written on the board, written on the whiteboard. They like lists, they like systems written down. They respond really well to a systematic approach to driving because it's a list that you work your way through. So that's the R of VARK. People who read information, who prefer the written word. The final one is the one that's less obvious. You might not automatically know what a kinesthetic learning style is. Somebody with a kinesthetic learning style is a doer. They like to try. They like to just get stuck in, pick up the tools and start doing the job. They may get it wrong at first, but they tend to learn from the mistakes. In terms of advanced driving and riding, that's somebody who likes to jump in and just drive and get on with it and do it under instruction. Now, I said before, most people are don't just have one single learning style. They adopt several different learning styles, usually two, maybe with a little bit of something else thrown in. In my case, I would describe my learning style as kinesthetic and visual. I like to get stuck in and have a go, but I also like to see what's required. I like to watch somebody else carry out the skill before I have a go at doing it. I like YouTube as a format. I like to search on YouTube if there's something I need to do at home, if there's something I need to repair or fix or set up. I'll look for the YouTube video before I'll read the instruction book, because the instruction books lose me after the second paragraph. So very much I have a kinesthetic and a visual learning style. Some people have an auditory and a visual learning style. They adapt quite nicely to advanced driving, especially when there's a good commentary in the mix. They'll look down the road, they'll listen to the information that's coming from the instructor, and they'll adopt to that very nicely. Other people might be a combination, for example, of reading, the written word, and auditory. Have a think about what your learning style is. Like I say, when people get in the car with you at first and you're going to be teaching them advanced skills, they won't know what the learning style is. You've got to work that out for yourself. Some people like to park in a lay-by and go through the theory in detail. Especially those that like the written word, and to sit there and look at diagrams. I always take my iPad out with me when I'm coaching, so that I can draw things and write things out on the screen. I can show them the system of car control, for example, the schematic, and that will help them, help them absorb that information. What we're trying to do as instructors, as coaches, is get that information absorbed into the brain in the best possible way. So having an understanding of learning styles will help you do that. So alongside learning styles, very, very useful for you to have an understanding of the 4 stages of competency. The 4 stages of competency are the stages that we all go through when we're either learning a new skill or adapting to a new way of doing an existing skill, which is essentially what we're doing when we're learning advanced driving skills. We can already drive, or we can already ride the bike, but we're adapting to new ways of carrying out that skill set. The 4 stages of competency are: number 1, unconscious incompetence; number 2, conscious incompetence; number 3, conscious competence; and number 4, unconscious competence. Which all sound exactly the same, don't they, when I read them out like that? But let's look at them in turn. You're learning a new skill. Let's say you're learning to drive right from the start. You've never sat in the driving seat of a car before. We start with unconscious incompetence. So you can't drive, you don't know what to do. But also you don't know how to start driving, you don't know how to start the car, you don't know what putting the car in neutral means, or pressing the clutch, or you may not even know what the 3 pedals do. So you are incompetent to that skill, you can't do it. It's not an insult to say you're incompetent, you just can't do it. And you don't even know how to start doing it, how to start learning that skill. That's unconscious competence. For the instructor, you are starting with a clean sheet of paper there, and you have to explain each element of what you're expecting them to do and break it right down. Second stage is conscious incompetence. Now, you still can't do it, but you know what's required. So in order to change gear in a manual car, I know that I need to press the clutch, come off the gas, move the gear stick to the next gear, bring the clutch back up, and then drive away smoothly. I know what's required, but I can't do it yet. I keep stalling, I keep mucking up the gear change, I keep crunching the gears, I keep making a right hash of it. So that is conscious incompetence. Can't do it, but I do know what's required. The third stage really, those of us that are advanced driving coaches and instructors, third stage is generally where we're aiming to get people to most of the time. The third stage of competence is conscious competence. Conscious competence means you know what to do, you know what's required, and you can do it when you're thinking about doing it. So your learner who couldn't change gear before now can change gear, but it requires all their effort and all their thought to do that. Everything else will be forgotten about. They'll look down at the gear stick to remind themselves where third gear is. Yeah. So it requires their full attention to do that thing. They can do it competently, but it's conscious competence. They have to think about it while they're doing it. Now, on a broader scale, that's essentially where we get people to. Certainly if you're an instructor in the police, on a standard car course, we get people to that conscious competence stage. Advanced cars, slightly different. I'll talk about that in a minute. For IM or ROSPA advanced courses or any other type of coaching, really we get people to that conscious competence stage. They can do all the things that are required of them to pass an advanced driving test, but it requires the full attention. They have to think about it all the time. None of it is coming naturally. As an examiner for the IM, I understand that. I understand that people are at that conscious competence stage, that they're thinking hard about what to do. It's requiring the full attention. That's why the test is only just over an hour long, because that's about the maximum we can expect people to put 100% concentration into doing something. Anything beyond that gets a bit much. Fourth stage of competence, the stage that we're all aiming to get to, is unconscious competence. Some people refer to it as muscle memory. It means you can do the thing without thinking about it. I can steer through these corners here and I can do it correctly and smoothly without giving it any thought whatsoever. I look where I want to put the car goes there. Now it's me operating the steering wheel, but I'm not really giving it any thought. I am now, because as soon as I mention it, I'm starting to give it some thought. But actually, you know, generally in driving the car down the road. I don't need to think how I steer the car. I will look and make a decision where I want to put it, but the technique is so ingrained, I'm so well practiced at it, that I can just do it. And practice is the key. The key to unlocking stage 4, once you've got to stage 3, the key to going from conscious competence to unconscious competence is practice. That's all it is, it's practice. And this is why an advanced car course in the police is 4 weeks long. Standard car course, 3 weeks. Advanced car course, 3 weeks instruction plus another week practice, which will get you much further towards being unconsciously competent, to being able to do a lot of the things without thinking about it. And the less you have to think about the things that you're doing, the more you open up another essential element of better driving, advanced driving, which is spare capacity. I want to have some spare mental capacity to deal with the things down there, to deal with the lorry in the car park up ahead if it's moving, to deal with the junction, to think about what possible hazards there are up here, to look for other sheep. While I'm doing that, while I'm really conscious, while my spare capacity is on that, my unused capacity is here. I'm just driving the car, I'm not thinking about it. The driving of the car is not requiring that much attention from me. I can just do it. Now, those of you that are instructors should be in that 4th stage, easily into that 4th stage of competence with everything that's required. But what you've got to remember is that the person who's learning it is not and will not be, and you have to be able to find a way to get them at least going towards that 4th stage of competency. We aim to get them to stage 3. Ideally, we get them moving gently towards stage 4, and we give them the tools and the skills to go away and practice on their own to get themselves into that 4th stage of competency, the muscle memory stage. Hopefully, if you think about those 4 stages of competency, you'll recognize that from your own learning journey, from your own, the stuff that you learned when you started going down this route of advanced driving. Some of it was difficult, wasn't it? It wasn't easy. I struggled to finish braking before I changed gear. I struggled to understand limit points. There are things that I really found quite difficult at first. The trick for you as an instructor, as a coach, is to remember what it was like not to be able to do those things. And to take that student, metaphorically take them by the hand and guide them through that learning process. Get them to where you want them to be. They need to understand what good looks like and how they can achieve that, because it's all achievable. Another little principle I want to introduce you to is click-click-clunk. Now, in order to understand click-click-clunk, this was a theory of an instructor I worked with many years ago at the police driving school. He taught me on my police instructor's course. And it's a way of describing the rate at which people learn new skills, and everybody has a different rate. And he would say that person there, they're good at them, they're a click-click-clunk. However, that person over there, well, a few more clicks in them before they get to the clunk. Click-click-click-click-clunk. And this principle is based around an old-fashioned, I don't know if they were pinball machines or coin drop machines. Not the pinball that you're thinking of, not these sort of horizontal tables, but a vertical sort of slot machine that you used to see in Blackpool and other seaside resorts. You put a coin in, and a metal ball, a ball bearing, would drop down from the top, and it would rattle its way through a series of pins on the board. I'll try and find a picture or a little video just to cut into this clip and show you. And sometimes you put your shilling in. I'm old, I'm not that old. Sometimes you put your 10p in, your 2 bob in, and the ball would come down and it'd go click, click, clunk. Sometimes it'd come down and it'd go click, 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 clunk. Sometimes it'd click a dozen times, clickety, 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 click, and then clunk. So the clunk is the bit where somebody has learned a skill, it makes sense. The penny has dropped, if you want to put it that way. The clicks are the amount of instruction that it's taken to get them to that point where the penny has dropped, where the clunk has taken place. So if someone is a click-click-clunk, that's a compliment, because they've picked something up pretty quickly and then they can just do it. And some people are like that. Some people are really annoying. They just pick things up. Other people take a bit longer. And in general, the shorter it takes people to pick something up, the more likely they are to just carry on doing it without you having to remind them. The longer they've taken to pick something up, the more you're going to have to remind them, just in general. So click, click, clunk is a nice way to think about whether somebody is picking something up reasonably quickly, and whether you can move on to the next skill or the next technique, or whether you have to stay on that last one until they've got it. If somebody's a real clicker, if they're a clickety-clicker, you might need to take them to a car park somewhere to teach them steering. You might need to concentrate just on braking or just on changing gear. They're a clickety-click clunker. But I would say almost all of them get there in the end. It's down to you, again, to recognise their learning style, work out what works for them, work out what helps them get where you want to be, and move them on through those stages of competency. And the last thing I wanted to look at is, this is a really interesting little bit of psychology, this. Genuinely psychology, because it was first described, well, it was probably described before this, but the names that were put to this theory were Dunning and Kruger, who were two psychologists. I say were, they might still be alive, apologies, Dunning and Kruger, if you're still around. I think they're American psychologists. And they describe this effect, which is it's a sort of imbalance between how good somebody thinks they are at a skill or a process or a thing that you need to learn, how good they think they are and how good they actually are. And Dunning-Kruger effect basically is this: if you've never tried something before and you watch somebody do something, let's say windsurfing, paddleboarding, something like that, you can look at that and go, oh, it looks easy. Now, part of that is because the people who are good at those things make it look easy, don't they? But at the same time, I look at windsurfing and I think, I could do that. It's just standing on a board holding a sail. In my heart, I know I couldn't. In my heart, I know it's a difficult thing to do. I've fallen a lot, I'd be knackered really quickly, I'd be out of breath, and I'd give it up as a bad job. But you'll see this with driving skills and with riding skills all the time. Well, I've been driving for 30 years, what can you teach me? What else is there left to learn? If you ask people to rate themselves as a driver, most people will say they are above average. Well, number one, they can't be, can they? Because that would knock the average out. But most people think they're a better than average driver when clearly they are not. The interesting thing about the Dunning-Kruger effect is that, yeah, at that basic end, when you don't know how to do something, snooker for example, you watch somebody playing snooker, it looks easy, I could do that, it's just knocking some balls around. Then you have a go and realise how big the table is, how small the pockets are, how difficult it is. Then that knocks you back as you start to go into the learning process with driving, with advanced driving skills. As you start to go into the process of learning these things, you first of all realise, actually, this is difficult, this is hard. This isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And then you rebalance your perception of how good you are. And interestingly, at the other end of the scale, at the end of the scale where somebody is an international expert in a particular subject, a renowned expert in a particular subject, that person generally does not think that they are particularly good. Their own perception of their own skills is at the other end of the spectrum. In their view, there is always more to learn. I think there is always more to learn about driving and riding. I never think that I've reached the pinnacle don't particularly think I'm that good at it. You be the judge of that. I've lots of experience and lots of knowledge. I know that, but I don't see myself as an expert. Lots of other people who were really considered experts in the field do not consider themselves to be experts. That's the opposite end of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Is that something you've experienced? Quite interesting, that, isn't it? So in and amongst all these things, you know, your learning styles, the 4 stages of competency, click-click-clunk, Dunning-Kruger effect, you might sit there and think, well, what is the relevance to teaching advanced driving? Over time, the more you instruct, the more you'll start to see these themes emerge. You'll find somebody who, you know, you'll say, go away and study this in roadcraft. Go and study the system of car control in roadcraft. They come back the week after, blank look on their face, because they are not, their learning style does not relate to the written word. But you jump in the car and give them a demonstration of how to drive systematically, and they'll pick it up straight away. Are a visual learner, a kinesthetic learner, rather than somebody who bases the learning on reading and writing or on listening. Other times somebody might be struggling on the road to understand how to put the system into practice through a series of hazards. So you park up in a lay-by, you get your copy of roadcraft out, your IM manual, whatever it is you're basing your learning on. Get your iPad out, write it out. Go through it in detail with them, show them that it's in a book, and watch the improvement. That person, you know, has a learning style that relates to reading and writing, the written word, and probably an auditory bit as well, because they're listening to you talking. All this stuff is relevant. Hopefully we can build on that as we go through this series of videos. We can build on these theories, help you develop as an instructor or a driving coach. So that's it for this video. It's a bit of the psychology behind teaching advanced driving and teaching in general. If you do any kind of teaching, these principles are important to you, worth knowing. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to click on the subscribe button and the little icon with a bell on it. That'll give you a notification every time I upload a new video. So this will be uploaded into my playlist, How I Teach Advanced Driving. If you don't know how to get on playlist, just click on my channel name, and then you'll see at the top there's a series of things. The first one is video, I think the next one is playlists. Just click on that, because I think it's important that you follow this this series in the order that I upload the videos, so I'll make sure that they're in that order on the playlist. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it, learned something. Don't forget to go and have a look at the website, reglocal.com. There's loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and riding. Information about my books. And about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching, or even instructor coaching if that's what you want to do. We can do a bit of that if you like, on these roads up here in the north of England. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.